About 6 or 7 years ago, I was doing a lot of, have I got my notes here? Travelling around the country, and I was doing workshops. And these were in schools, primary level schools, and it was to develop confidence and speech and communication skills. And a lot of the time, what would happen is, as children do, they tend to tell you what they want to be when they grow up, and that's very exciting to hear. I love the ones that say they want to be a dragon or a tree. usually about this big. But the thing is, I noticed at that time, and I can honestly say that approximately 90% of girls those years ago said that when they grew up, we're talking 5-year-olds to 11-year-olds, wanted to be either a princess or a wag. Yeah. And that was always slightly something that stuck in my head. Now, when I was growing up, I was always told, I was very fortunate. I grew up in a house where I was always told I could be anything I wanted to be. And that was very exciting, but oh my God, the pressure. And I said, really, Mum? And Mum would say, yes, of course, if you work hard enough, you can do anything you want to do. And that makes sense. And I was like, oh my gosh. The problem is, and I still have this at home, is my diary from when I was 10. And on the back page, I'd written down every single occupation that I wanted to be. And I'm not talking about I would be happy being one of them. I wanted to do all of them. And that included being a barrister, a doctor, a furniture maker, a marine biologist, an actress, a singer, a detective, and a writer. Now, I've done a couple of those things, and I've still got a while to go. I'm planning to be Miss Marple in my golden years. But that is an extraordinary amount of pressure, and we're told that from an early age. You can be anything you want to be, you can have it all. And that's a funny phrase, isn't it? Having it all. As women, especially, I think we're told, you can have it all. But what does that mean? Because I think we've lost the message a bit. And when I say lost the message, I think that this experience of a very strong emotion is slowly creeped in terms of, I can have it all, so therefore I must be a mother who is Nigella in the kitchen, who is an amazing cleaner, who is also a CEO, and recycles. If you are all those things, well done. But for those of us who aren't, we start to think, oh my gosh, I'm failing miserably at life because I'm not having it all. And that guilt emotion starts to come in and creep up, and we start to think these tiny little things in everyday life. We think, oh, I haven't done this, I haven't done that, I'm a bad friend, I'm a bad child, I'm a bad parent. All these things start to creep in. Now, my first experience of guilt, or at least my first memory of it, I was in a shop after school with my mum, and we were just getting a few bits and bobs. And it was winter, so it was dark. And just at that point, there was a power cut, and all the lights went out. And I just happened to be standing right in front of the pick and mix. Now, if you were 9 and stood in front of the pick and mix, and it was pitch black, what would cross your mind? Because I'm afraid to say it really did for me. And that's the thing, isn't it? I was thinking, it's pitch black. Nobody would know. Nobody would see. And I really hate to admit this, I did pick up one of those little packets of Love Heart sweets, and I put them up my sleeve. And then the lights came back on, and I went and joined my mum in the queue. And moments later, it really didn't take long, it hit me, and it all sat on my chest, and I went, oh my God, I'm a horrible person. I just thought I'd done the most awful thing, and I quickly went back and I put those sweets back in the pot, which meant I was really living life as a 9-year-old. It could have been the perfect crime. But it was that feeling of guilt, and that's the first time I really remember thinking, and the thing is, nobody knew, that was just me. That was just me. And now as an adult, and I've certainly in the last 2 years, I think, have really noticed that the amount of time I spend feeling guilty has grown massively. And my friends and my family, because we chat about this now, it becomes a conversation. I haven't done this, I haven't done that, I didn't do the ironing. Well, I never do the ironing, but you know, all of these things. And in a way, I'd like to do a bit of an experiment, if that's all right with you. In the last 24 hours, I want you to have a think about what you have been doing. And if you have had at least one moment of, I didn't make it for bath time, I'm a bad person, oh, I should have done this, I should have reached the last post, I should have called my friend, I didn't call my dad, something like that. If you have felt a moment of guilt, I didn't paint the skirting boards again, it's been 3 years, then I would like you to raise your hand. Okay. And turn around and just have a look around of the room, because quite a lot of you have put your hands up, and I can see who the people are that have put their hands up. Don't worry, put them down. Now, guilt is an important emotion. I'm not going to deny that. It tells us when we have been wrong, and it helps us learn, it helps us grow as human beings. It is a very important emotion. But we seem to be feeling it on a scale a lot of the time. It's a bit too much, do you not think? And we saw all of these hands going up in the room, including myself. That's a lot of energy in the last 24 hours that has been spent feeling guilty. And I would like you to think, was it worth it? Did that guilt help you learn? Did it help you get towards your objective as a human? And sometimes it does, but a lot of the time, more recently, it doesn't. And there are now studies being developed about this because we are feeling guilt a lot more, and I'm afraid to say it seems to be affecting women, or infecting women a lot more. There was a study done in 2009 by the Spanish Journal of Psychology, which was called Habitual Guilt in Men and Women. And it's a very long document, and you can look it up and you can read through it. But the gist of it was, and the highlighted abstract sentence, was that it was found that women felt guilt on a more intense level than men through all ages. Now, because I thought, well, maybe it's me, maybe it's because I've gotten to that age now where we're doing, mortgages and cars and all of these very grown-up things that are suddenly very nerve-wracking. But it isn't. It's women of all ages that are feeling this more and more. And why is that? Why is this creeping into our lives? I mean, especially mothers, I think. We're feeling this guilt a lot of the time. We're judging all of the time. And this has been mentioned already today several times, because if we look at the environment that we're surrounding in, and I'm all for technology and social media, I really am. But if we look about the way we communicate online at the moment, we're forgetting that human instinct. We're removing ourselves from looking at people and understanding people and interpreting responses. And that can come off as very judgmental. And that makes us feel, I'm not doing it right. I have been a bad friend. I didn't call them at all on their birthday. So when we look at social media, it's everywhere. I mean, I saw one of those pictures with the writing things the other day that said, if only my life was as good as it looks on my Instagram account. I thought, I really wish that were true. And that's the thing, it's all subjective, isn't it? Because what we put out there is what we want people to see. We have certain intentions when we post and objectives. And that can actually turn into a bizarre interpretation when we read it. And it's also in the media. We keep seeing the word shame everywhere, body shaming, which has gone through laws to go against it. That's how important it's become. So-and-so shame is often on the headlines of some sort of red top newspaper, as if it's something that they've flashed at someone incidentally. It's a bizarre concept that we use to not only control other people, but control ourselves. It's almost like a punishment. So what do we do about this kind of thing? How do we level ourselves out? Because when we talk about having it all, shouldn't we get to enjoy that? Haven't we got to the point where we can actually go, do you know what? You're right, I can have it all. But I want to enjoy it. I want to stop feeling like I haven't done enough and enough and enough. And I'm not talking about stopping yourself achieving something. I want you to identify what it is you want to achieve and stop looking potentially at what other people are doing. As a performer, we tend to get given a script, and when you look at a character or you're designing an event or anything like that, you have to look at, and I've already said this, the intentions and objectives of that character. It is an acting tool, and the reason why it's an acting tool is because it mimics humanity. Every time we move, we have an intention. Every time you wake up, you have an objective. They might be subconscious, they might be conscious, but every single one of you here today has an objective for being here. And that is very deeply personal, and that's completely up to you. So when we look at guilt and all of these techniques, and you say to someone, when you meet them in a party and they say, what are you? You say, well, I'm Justa. I'm Justa. You're not just in anything. You are you. And you're fabulous. But it's you that's going to define your own success. And when we say having it all, don't we mean having what you want out of it all? And that's the brilliant thing, is that these days almost, we're not quite there yet, but almost we can do whatever it is it means to you to have it all. And if you think about your personal life objectives and your intentions when you use certain languages and use communication with people, and you feel that guilt day to day, think about, is it useful to me? Because I guarantee you a lot of that guilt is not going to help you achieve your objective, and I think it will slow you down a lot, because this is what I've started doing this year. Is it right? Do I feel bad? Am I single-handedly destroying the planet because I did not rinse out the milk bottle this morning? I then dive back in and try and do it again. But is it useful? Yes, if I take away the fact that I will remember not to throw away dirty recycling, as according to my district council. But that's for me. And I would like to think about what you would like to achieve and how your guilt can work for you. And if it doesn't work for you, just throw it away. But things are changing, and that's the great thing, because, you know, this year I was doing a workshop again in schools earlier this year, and since that time that I was starting out a few years ago, I had a student come up to me, and she was very clear, and she said, not what I want to be when I grow up. She said, I am going to be Prime Minister. That was the first time in 7 years of touring England that I had heard that. And it still kind of gives me the chills. And the fact is that you will still get the girl that wants to be a princess or a wag, and now a prime minister. And whatever that girl wants to be, that is the point of having it all. Thank you.